Welcome to this very first episode of the podcast where we're going to talk about land, freedom, and legacy. I am Fernando Martinez, land developer in Tulum, and today I have the privilege of launching this series with a very special guest. She's a psychologist, an entrepreneur, and she flew all the way from San Francisco just to be here on the land that now belongs to her. She bought an hectare near the airport, and with that, she didn't just invest in land, she invested in her future. Thank you and welcome. Kenny. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Fernando. Hi, I'm Kini Chang here on the first podcast with Fernando. I'm super excited to be here and share about my experience with you all.
Okay, so to start, what do you feel when you were coming to Tulum and knowing that you were about to record with me and to see your land?
I think one of the things I was really excited, number one, and I think I've been excited, right, about this process and going through all of this with Fernando and, some other people that I'm connected to around really having the same vision around the land. And being able to come and record and share about this experience was really important to me, right? Because this is happening, but really haven't had a chance to share exactly what that is. And so this felt like an opportunity to share about what that would be and for other people to know about it so that they can make a decision for themselves to see if it actually works for them. And this might be something that they want to do.
Okay. So, from your professional point of view, what make you think uh, what mental or emotion blocks keep people from investing in their
Mm.
future?
I think buying out of country, so I'm American, right? And so imagining the process about say buying in Mexico or buying somewhere else, it feels scary because you don't trust the government or you don't know who you can trust because it's a very different process. And so I think there is something about needing to trust, but you can't trust unless you know what you're trusting, right? And I think you can't trust unless you have the facts. And it's really important, I think, to share exactly what a process is, what to expect, really giving realistic expectations so people know exactly what they're signing up for. Like, for example, Fernando, you told me the timeline, right? I might be buying land and thinking, oh, I can develop it next week. That's not what I'm signing up for. And I think it's important to know, like, in this process, we're choosing to build together. And that takes time, right? And I was okay with that. I knew that and I wanted that. But I think knowing what you're signing up for as well as knowing what the process is and developing a relationship. I think that's something you're really good at is developing relationships. And I think my trust in you really came from understanding who you are, the way that you work, to feel like you have integrity and honesty and transparency about what you're talking about. And so that made me feel more comfortable making a decision to buy out of this country. Right. So those are some things I think that help me make a decision as well.
Okay. And what was your biggest fear when investing in Mexico? How do you face it?
When it's a risk, right? Like I took a leap of faith and it was a risk. And I have to say that I knew that the amount of money that I was putting aside to buy the parcel, I think you have to know that if you were to lose it, that you're okay with that. Not saying that you're going to lose it, but any kind of investment, no matter the risk, whether it's stocks, whether it's anything, right? That's extra money you have. So if this is a vision that you have, put aside that money and know that there's risk involved. With the hope that there is like growth that can come from it, but don't put your life savings pull out a loan and put money aside because you want to build land, right? I would say this should be an additional investment, like a second or third or fourth investment, so that you're helping your own fear. Because if you're there's people I think that sometimes make the mistake where they'll pull out a loan or equity against their house because they have this fantasy
Make some
about
moves.
building in paradise, but then they're super scared, right? Because they're banking on this development or they're banking on needing this to grow and to grow fast. And I would say in order to absolve that fear or like be careful with that is to make sure that it's money that you have that you can have banked away for a couple years and that it's okay and you can trust that whatever happens with it will happen. I think the other thing is I bought with you prior to the growth and prior to the airport and the train being developed. I mean, it was in the planning stages. We knew that it was going to process, but it hadn't started yet. And so,
Okay.
knowing that information about my background, I knew, right? I knew that this land is going to appreciate, but it's because I have connections in Mexico. I have friends in Mexico. It's not like a blind decision. So that also helped knowing that there were infrastructures that were going to be built that would make a difference and
What was going on?
appreciation. Yeah, I already knew that information. So that helped manage some of the fear as well.
Okay. What convinced you the most about the project?
Hmm. I think the thing that convinced me most about the project is the vision that I have. Um, Earlier, I talked a little bit about the fear and being able to kind of soothe the fear and feeling and trusting that the land will appreciate. But I think the other thing was connecting with the land of the Mayan people and what my vision is for what I want to do with the land, right? And something that feels really important. Earlier, I was talking to some guests like that were here, and I imagined myself as like a steward of the land, and why that is different than being a developer, or why that's different than owning land, is that I'm kind of a holder of the land and really listening to what the land needs in what I'm building. So that feels really important. And I feel like a lot of what happens with developments is that people forget about that, right? They don't care. They're like, oh, I want apartments. I want to make money. I want to do all these things, which is fine. But for me, that felt wrong. I think we look at colonization and just the way colonization has impacted the world, and I didn't want to contribute to colonization. So when I envision like this retreat center, right, it's the people, the Mayan people and local people are part of that conversation. So when we get to the point where this land is being developed and we're looking at this retreat center, it's asking them directly, if you could be a part of this process, what is it that you need? Is it being here in like working on the property? Is it ensuring that how much like native plants are still part of it? Native fruits, like really being mindful of how much of the jungle you're taking away. Only necessity, right? Building, say, up high on stilts so then you don't have to destroy the landscape, right? So really thinking about carbon footprint and how minimal that carbon footprint can be. And ultimately I want to be able to have a amount of the proceeds go back to the people and in ways that are best for them, right? Like I think about it as reciprocity. What I take away, I want to be able to give back because it's a relationship with the land and a relationship with the people. So that feels important to me.
I love that to give back and to fill it out with looking for the vocation of the land, knowing the necessity of the local, and to can pull it and fill it out. I
Yeah.
love that part. And why why do you think it's important to own property outside the country you live in?
Mm. I think for me, so I live in the San Francisco Bay Area and it's incredibly expensive. It's probably one of the most expensive parts of the United States, to be honest. And so I I actually don't think it's that sustainable for me to live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I suppose when I think about like the next generation, like it would be difficult to pass that on to the next generation. It'd be really difficult to buy in that region. It's becoming more and more difficult to have something to provide to the next generation or like to the people. And so it felt like that felt important, not because it's really hard for me to have a legacy in the area like San Francisco. So that was part of it is to where do I want to build my legacy? Um, and what does that look like, right? I think it's more than Quintana Roo as like paradise, but it's that being here makes me feel at home, and I think that's something. How do you pick what country? How do you pick what region? And the decision I made, and I've been to like over 70 countries, so I've traveled a lot in the world. Um, and here is where I feel most at home. And so when I see like a home away from home, this is what calls to me. So that's kind of how I made my decision. Yeah.
And what would you say to someone who wants to invest but doesn't dare to?
Mm, I would say ask all the questions. Anything that you have fears about, curiosity about, things that you wonder about, go and visit multiple times. Go and visit not just multiple times, but experience the people, the culture, talk to locals, talk to different developers, right? See what you're really present, like what is it like here? And that's anywhere, whether it's here or buying anywhere in the world. I really think people need to know what it's like to actually live there. So being able to spend extensive amounts of time there so that you can get a real sense of what it means to live local, because otherwise I don't think you really know or really understand that, right? But I think definitely any questions you have, ask the questions. It's so important. No matter how weird the question might be, or like whether you're like, maybe I should know this, it doesn't matter. Ask your question, be curious.
Don't keep anything.
Don't keep anything in. Of course, I think asking the right people. So you might want to do a little bit of research, because there are going to be people out here, right, who don't have your best interest in mind. I think that's a lot of what people's fears are. Like, who am I talking to? Is this person trying to scam me?
Yes.
And that's why I think doing your research is really important, and talking to multiple sources.
Sure.
And I really believe people, your intuition actually tells you a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So listen to your intuition. If you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that, you're probably right, right? That's what I'm saying. Talk to multiple people and ask these questions. Because if you listen to your intuition, you're gonna actually know who's being honest and who you can kind of begin to listen and trust into. So definitely do your research and ask your questions.
Nice. Well, with that said, something you wanna add, like to close, something you love about this place,
Hmm.
this region?
I think something that stands out to me is the first time I entered a cenote was 14 years ago, maybe longer now. And it was such a profoundly spiritual experience for me. And when I was saying, this region feels like home away from home, I really think it was that moment. Where my first dive and immersion in the cenote, when ritual was in process, where there was this gratitude for the cenote and the land, and I came out of the cenote really like not just refreshed, but like renewed. And to me, I was like, oh, there's something so sacred about this water. There's something so special about this place that I just knew, right? 14 years ago, like this is the place for me.
Recharge.
And this helps me continue doing my work as a therapist. This helps me continue to actually help people in my profession, because I chose a profession that is of service, right? I chose a profession that teaches and educates and heals others. And so for me, being able to be somewhere that's really healing for me helps me be able to continue being a healer in this work.
Take your time, retreat, reheal,
Yeah.
and go back again to do what you love to do.
And I think for me, why this retreat center feels important, because I think about it like as the framework of healing healers, right? I think of what the sacred waters have provided for me, and how many healers in the world that can actually come and retreat to this place so that they can go back and do the work that they do. So I think I have this larger vision, that's bigger than myself, but it really was experienced within me like 14 years ago. So it's kind of become what it is now.
It's integrate, right?
Yeah.
Integrates everything.
Hmm.
Nice. And for those who are out there looking to invest, for first you gotta check out and do your research. Look out for the paperwork and ask for everything, and make sure with a lawyer that has to be professionally at least being with the agricultural land, okay, or be with a professional that have a ID with SEDETUS that is asked for it to be professional, and he can give you a good accessory. Okay. Very much, Kenny, to be with us in the first episode.
Yeah, it was so great. I really appreciate being here. The weather's perfect today, and I'm so glad I was able to share my story with you and everyone who's watching. Thank you.
Thank you very much.